Okay, so you've got this Cloud Security Analyst interview coming up.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats. We're going to help you absolutely crush it.
Yeah.
We're diving into some sample interview questions today
Okay.
from Cyber Warfare Labs.
Right.
They've got this document called Cloud Security Analyst Interview Questions.pdf.
Yeah.
That's pure gold, and we're going to break it all down for you.
And, just having a sense of these topics is great.
Yeah.
But what really sets a candidate apart is their understanding.
Okay.
Interviewers want to know you can think critically about cloud security, not just parrot back terms.
Yeah, it's about connecting the dots.
Exactly.
And showing them you're ready to hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
And the first concept this document dives into is shared responsibility.
Right.
Now, it sounds simple,
It does.
but this one trips people up all the time.
It does. There's this misconception that when you move to the cloud,
Yeah.
security becomes someone else's problem entirely.
Right.
Like the provider just handles it all.
You just kick back and relax.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the reality, as we know, is much more nuanced.
Okay.
While the provider is responsible for securing the underlying infrastructure, things like the physical data centers and
What?
the hardware,
Okay.
you as the cloud customer are responsible for everything you put in the cloud.
Okay, so walk me through this.
Sure.
What are some real-world examples of where that line blurs?
Okay.
Where has shared responsibility caused confusion in the past?
Well, think about a situation where a company stores sensitive data in an S3 bucket,
Okay.
but they misconfigure the access settings, leaving it publicly accessible.
Right.
In that case, even though S3 as a service is secure,
Okay.
the company is responsible for not properly configuring their specific bucket's security.
So it's kind of like renting an apartment, right?
Exactly.
The landlord takes care of the building's overall security,
Right.
but you're responsible for locking your own door.
And just like in an apartment building, if you leave your door wide open
Yeah.
and someone walks in and takes something,
Right.
you can't blame the landlord.
Definitely makes you think twice about who's responsible for what.
It does.
Okay, so once you understand that shared responsibility thing,
Mm-hmm.
the next step is getting a handle on the tools you'll use to manage your end of the bargain.
Right.
The document goes into AWS and Azure Security Services.
It does.
Quite a list.
It is, and it's important to be familiar with at least the key services each provider offers.
Yep.
We're talking AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM,
Right.
AWS Key Management Service, KMS,
Okay.
Azure Key Vault, Azure Security Center, things like that.
Yeah.
But to really impress in an interview,
Okay.
you'll want to go beyond just being able to name them.
So don't just memorize a glossary.
Right.
What would you suggest someone focus on when researching these tools?
I'd say understanding the core function of each service,
Okay.
what makes it unique, and how it fits into the bigger picture of cloud security. For example, take AWS Guard Duty.
Okay.
It's not just about threat detection. It uses machine learning to proactively identify threats, which is pretty cool.
That is interesting. So rather than just reacting to something that's already happened,
Right.
it's trying to anticipate what the bad guys might do.
Exactly. It's constantly analyzing your environment for any suspicious activity,
Okay.
like unusual API calls or attempts to access data from unusual locations. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's like having a security guard who's also a chess grandmaster,
Right.
always thinking 5 steps ahead.
Exactly.
Speaking of being proactive,
Yeah.
that reminds me of another biggie from the document,
Wait.
least privilege.
Yes, least privilege.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental security principle,
Okay.
not just in the cloud, but in any IT environment, really.
So break it down for me.
Okay.
What's the gist of least privilege,
Okay.
and how does it apply to the cloud specifically?
At its core, least privilege means giving users and systems only the bare minimum permissions they need to do their jobs and nothing more.
Right.
It's about limiting access to prevent accidental or intentional misuse of data and resources. In the cloud, we implement this through IAM roles, permissions, and access controls.
Okay, so rather than giving everyone the keys to the kingdom,
Right.
you're giving them a key card that only unlocks the doors they actually need to use.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this is so crucial in cloud environments where things can quickly spiral out of control.
Right.
Imagine a junior developer accidentally pushing code changes that expose sensitive data.
Yeah, that's scary.
Or a disgruntled employee with excessive access causing havoc.
Right.
Least privilege helps mitigate those risks.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you're preventing not just malicious actions,
Right.
but also those oops moments that can happen to anyone.
Exactly.
Now, thinking about real-world scenarios,
Sure.
are there any specific examples of what can go wrong when least privilege isn't followed?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
There was a case a few years back where a company left an S3 bucket, basically a cloud storage container open to the public, due to a misconfigured IAM policy.
Oh, wow.
This bucket contains sensitive customer data, including names, addresses, even credit card information in some cases.
Oh, no.
It was a costly mistake,
Yeah.
both financially and reputationally.
Ouch.
Yeah,
That's a stark reminder of why this stuff matters.
it is.
So we've talked about shared responsibility,
Right.
the importance of knowing your cloud provider's security tools, and the need for least privilege.
Right.
What else does the document highlight as being crucial for cloud security analyst interviews?
Well, this next one is all about staying one step ahead.
Okay.
Threat detection.
Okay.
The document emphasizes that speed is of the essence in the cloud.
Right.
Threats can emerge and escalate rapidly, so you need to be able to detect, analyze, and respond quickly and effectively.
It's a high-stakes game of digital chess.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's why automation and playbooks are so important in cloud security.
Okay.
You want to have automated systems in place that can detect suspicious activity in real time
Right.
and predefined playbooks that guide your response to different types of incidents.
So it's about having a plan for when, not if, something happens.
Exactly. Got it.
Can you give me an example of how this might play out in a real-world scenario?
Let's say your cloud environment is suddenly flooded with traffic from an unusual geographic location.
Okay.
This could indicate a distributed denial of service, DDoS attack,
Right.
where someone is trying to overwhelm your systems and take your website offline.
That sounds scary.
It can be,
Yeah.
but with the right preparation, you can mitigate the damage.
Okay.
A well-defined playbook would outline the steps to take, identify the source of the attack,
Okay.
implement traffic filtering rules to block the malicious traffic, and potentially reroute legitimate traffic to a backup server.
Wow. So you're not just reacting to the attack, you're essentially redirecting it like some kind of digital martial artist.
Exactly.
That's,
And the more you can automate these responses,
Yeah.
the faster and more effectively you can mitigate the threat.
okay, so threat detection,
Right.
automation, playbooks. Got it.
Yeah.
Now onto something we can all relate to, even if we don't work in cybersecurity.
Okay.
Misconfigurations.
Right.
Let's face it, we've all made typos,
Oh, yeah.
overlooked a setting, or accidentally hit reply all in an email.
Exactly.
But in the world of cloud security, those seemingly small slip-ups
Yeah.
can have huge GE consequences.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
The document actually gives an example of a misconfigured S3 bucket,
Right.
similar to what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But this time, it was a simple typo in the access controls that left the data exposed.
Oh, no.
It's a good reminder that even small errors can have big consequences.
Yeah, that's scary. It's like hitting the wrong key and suddenly all your secrets are spilled.
Exactly. And it highlights why having processes in place to prevent and detect misconfigurations is crucial.
Okay, so what can you do? Like, how do you catch a typo?
Well, things like automated security posture assessments,
Okay.
regular vulnerability scans, and using infrastructure as code, IAC tools, can drastically reduce the likelihood of these errors slipping through the cracks.
Okay, so IAC, that's where you're essentially writing code to define and manage your infrastructure, right?
Exactly. Instead of manually configuring servers,
Right.
networks, and security settings,
Right.
you write code that defines the desired state of your environment.
Right.
This not only makes it more efficient,
Yeah.
but also reduces the risk of human error.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like having a blueprint for your entire cloud setup.
Precisely.
Now, before we wrap up, we need to touch on two more topics the document mentions.
Okay.
And they're a bit more advanced.
Right.
Multi-cloud environment and API security.
Yes.
These are areas where things get really complex really fast.
They certainly can. Managing security across multiple cloud providers
Right.
like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform, GCP,
Mm.
each with their own unique services.
Yeah.
APIs and security models
Right.
presents a significant challenge.
Okay.
And APIs themselves,
Yeah.
while incredibly useful for connecting applications and services,
Right.
introduce a whole other layer of complexity to cloud security.
It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
So for someone who's just starting out in cloud security, what are some key things to keep in mind when it comes to these more complex environments?
For multi-cloud environments, I'd say focus on understanding the shared responsibility model for each provider,
Okay.
implementing a centralized security management solution that can span across platforms,
Right.
and adopting security tools that offer multi-cloud support.
Okay.
As for API security, start with strong authentication and authorization mechanisms,
Okay.
implement rate limiting to prevent abuse,
Right.
and ensure all sensitive data transmitted via APIs is encrypted.
So basically, don't let your APIs become an open door for the bad guys.
Exactly.
Now, I know we've covered a ton of ground here.
We have.
We've gone from shared responsibility all the way to multi-cloud environments and API security.
Well-
Any final thoughts for our aspiring cloud security analyst as they head into that interview?
I'd say demonstrate your passion for this field.
Okay.
Show them you're not just there to check boxes,
Right.
but that you're genuinely interested in cloud security.
Yeah.
You stay updated on the latest threats and trends, and you're eager to learn and grow in this role.
I love that. Show them you're not just looking for a job.
Exactly.
You're looking for a career path you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
And if you want to dive even deeper into these topics, be sure to check out Cyber Warfare Lab's website at cyberwarfare.live.
Great resource.
It's got some great resources there. Good luck with that interview.
Good luck.
We're rooting for you.